الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. You see, people that are interested in perfecting something, they'll spend a lot of time and effort and energy into that action, into that task. There's this book that was written called Outliers. Many of you may be familiar with it, by Malcolm Gladwell from Canada. And he has this concept of this 10,000 hours of excellence. Right? And it's kind of a debated thing. You know, some people say it doesn't actually hold true, and they've studied and counted it. But the general idea being that in order for a person to be very proficient at a particular task, no matter what their baseline starting point is, or no matter what their own skill set is, if they really put enough effort into it, they'll become as proficient as the level of an expert. Right? As proficient as the level of an expert. You know, Edison used to say that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Because you really have to put in an effort in order to become excellent at something. This is definitely, you know, in today, in the weeks that we're currently in, we see this with Olympians. And these are people who have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort and energy and focus in order to present themselves at a world stage. I mean, if you look at any of their individual lives and their schedules and the effort that they put in, the trainers that they surround themselves with, you know, what time they wake up in the morning, what kind of food they eat. I mean, their entire schedule for years surrounds around this one principle of I need to become proficient at this particular task because I'm going to present this on the world stage. And honestly, it's inspiring in a way to see people that can become that focused and that dedicated to something, and then eventually succeed, right? And they triumph, and this is what it's about. Now, if we tie that into our own lives and we ask ourselves, well, which action or which task is the most important for me? Meaning, what do I need to perfect? Or what do I need to become highly proficient in? What do I need to become highly proficient in? Such that it can be presented on a higher stage than the global stage. And that is our prayer. It's our prayer. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, in many places when He's referencing prayer, you'll notice, for instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, He'll say, الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. He's referring to the people of taqwa, of piety, right, people of goodness, that they are people who have straightened out their prayer. Aqama yuqimu literally takes the meaning of to straighten something out. Now, it could have been, these are people who perform the prayer, right, the salah. These are people who execute the prayer. These are people who are consistent in prayer. But the wording that Allah Ta'ala uses time and time again in the Quran when describing the people that engage themselves in prayer is what? Aqama yuqimu or aqama salah. Or He tells the believers, right? Or even when we're making the announcement to say aqim as-salah. The literal meaning of aqama yuqimu is to straighten something out. So that if it's bent or crooked, you straighten it out. I.e., you make it as perfect as possible. As perfect as possible. Now, if we look at salah and who it's being presented to, right? I mean, this is our way of communicating with Allah, and it's the one action that really that we have to present to Allah Ta'ala, which is far more important than anything we can present on a global stage. This is a deed that we perform 5 times a day for the sake of Allah, before Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And He's very mindful of our interaction with Him in our prayer. So what it means for us is amongst all of the things that we deem to be important in our lives. And all of the tasks, we can say, or actions that we feel that we need to become proficient in, at the foremost is the prayer. At the foremost is the prayer. There's nothing that will be asked about in the Day of Judgment before the salah. Like that comes from hadith. But the first thing that the believer will be asked about is their prayer, and if the prayer isn't in place, we're not proficient in our prayer, let's say, well then there's no need to even have a discussion about what the rest of your life was like. Right? That's how important prayer is. So, for us, we know that salah is important. We know it's the most important responsibility that we have. We know it's an action, meaning it's not something that we just think about or we listen to talks about or we receive inspiration about. It involves doing, not just listening. It involves doing. So it behooves us to aim to make ourselves proficient in this task more than any other task. Be a task of deen, right? The salah is the first thing that's important in our responsibilities to Allah. But in general, if you look at all the things we're proficient in, the hours that we may spend on a basketball court, or the hours that we may spend in a library trying to, figure out some problem, right? The hours that we may spend straightening out our lawn or our landscaping, the hours that we may spend detailing our car, the hours that we may spend, renovating our home, all of these things we're doing so that our home becomes, you could say, somewhat straightened out, or presentable, or perfect. But the reality is, there's nothing that's more important than salah. Allah Ta'ala again says, He says, "Aqim as-salah," straighten it out. So imagine, if salah is that important, if salah is something that is, it's an action that needs to be performed, what attention should you and I give to our prayer? Right? How much focus should go into it? Not in terms of focus while we're praying, that's different. What I'm talking about is how much effort should we put into our daily lives in making sure that our salah is perfect. How many hours, if it's 10,000 for any other task, how many hours should we be putting in to make sure that our salah is perfect as possible? Meaning the physical performance of salah and the steps that are taken. How is it that we can take it from just random movements or distracted movements to those that are in accordance with how the Prophet ﷺ prayed. And it includes the recitation of the Quran, because the salah is incomplete without proper recitation of the Arabic language and the tajweed that comes with the Quran. So how much effort and energy should I put in making sure my recitation is proper? And then it goes into the meaning of what I'm reciting. That's also part of proficiency in prayer. And then it goes into my timeliness, so that I'm praying at the earliest time and not delaying my prayer. Right? How much time needs to go into setting a schedule so that I can establish that? And then the internal states that should be present in my heart while I'm praying. What is depth in prayer? What sort of things do I need to take? What measures do I need to take to become proficient in the spiritual connections that occur during prayer? So, the summary of the discussion today is that salah is important. Right? Our prayer is the most important thing that we offer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we see people around us, athletes, Olympians, colleagues at work, and even ourselves, putting in so much effort and energy and are able to become so focused so that we can become proficient at something that's presented to people, well, how much effort and energy and focus and schedule changes and sacrifices, and how much should I perspire in order to make my salah perfect so that it's proficient and presentable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment? Something to think about, right? For myself, first and foremost, it needs to be a priority in my life, right? Which is that my salah has to become perfect. I have the ability, I have the time, I have the resources needed in order to be able to do it. It can't be sitting on the back burner, because this is the first thing we'll be asked about on the Day of Judgment. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to appreciate the value of proficiency in prayer. May Allah ta'ala allow our outward and our inward to become pure, such that we perform the prayer properly. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow our salah to be presentable to Him on the Day of Judgment. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد عبده ورسوله. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي، وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة، والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة، وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله. اللهم اغفر العباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا، رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. عباد الله اتقوا الله، اذكروا الله يذكركم، وادعوه يستجب لكم، ولا ذكر الله تعالى أكبر، والله يعلم ما تصنعون.